Welcome to episode 2 of Snap on This. If 2 is a surprising number to you, we are counting last week's takeover of Snap Judgments, episode 64, as our episode 1. We're going to start this week as we always do in this long-standing tradition. How was your week in Snap, Ben? And keep it snappy.
All right, well, keeping it snappy, the week has been pretty good. I am having a lot of fun. I'm having much more fun than usual in Post-Infinite Ladder. I think a lot of that is because of bounties, and I sort of remove the pressure from myself, and I just stop paying attention to wins and losses as much, and I still get results. I don't know. I don't want to make it sound like I just sort of effortlessly dance through card games. I'm having fun and winning games, and it's going well. I'm playing some classic decks, I'm playing some new decks, and I'm playing the cards I love, and they're performing well, and that feels better than when they aren't performing well. So I'm having a good time. I think I might try for a top 1000 this month.
I love to hear that. I think that the ranked climb is really fun to do, but it's such a heavy grind. I try to do it just like... I've only tried it 2 months so far. January, and I don't know what the last time was, like May or something. Anyway, moving on. How was your week in Snappery?
I've been slacking mostly. So this week I was trying to get a little more caught up on Conquest. I worked through a lot of my silver tickets because I had a pile. From all the times you just play Proving Grounds because you don't want to actually play Conquest.
Big are we? Yeah, right. How big are we talking? How big is this pile?
I think the pile was like somewhere around 15. I don't,
Back in silver tickets to the ceiling.
Yeah.
That's respectable. I have like 40 right now, and it's out of control and ridiculous.
That's right.
Wow, that's the ceiling.
Yeah, see, it's a lot. I would have that high though if I hadn't actually been playing more ladder than usual. So I finally got through that, and I did my first gold run, and I got my first infinite ticket with Megacalypse, with my comfort deck that I've been playing a lot because I've had a hard month. And but my battle 3 was against Loki Arshem, so I'm proud to have won. And I think so occasionally a Loki will beat me, but I do win a lot against Loki with my Megacalypse deck, and I think it is because it's not like basic discard like what you'd get if you were to like auto build a discard deck, because I have Strong Guy in there, I have Swordmaster, it's built a lot, Gambit, it's built a lot around like reducing your hand to nothing, but Apocalypse. And so when Loki gets their hands on my cards, can they play my deck better than me? I dare anyone to play a redeck better than me. It's actually a bit of a problem when I share decks, to be honest. The way I play, I think the way I think about playing is different enough from a lot of people that it's like I think they struggle to use my decks that work really well for me.
Yeah, and there's like no way to warn people about it without sounding like the worst, you know?
Yeah. This deck requires a very big brain.
Yeah, like it's tricksy. So I think I love building. So think about if you're playing board games. Some people play, like a lot of my friends play, and from the first round of like a 7-round board game, they have this epic plan they're gonna try and execute, right? And if they can pull it off, they're gonna win. And if something screws it up, they're hosed. And I tend to play in a much more versatile way. Like I like to play based on what's happening. So to me, like the locations that come out, it's like everything I'm doing is keeping things as flexible as possible for me in the future. And maybe sometimes I have a loose plan for the future. And that's how I build my decks, with a lot of versatility. It's why I love Nico so much. Anyway, and it's just like some people that they're like, what are the lines? You know what I mean? Like, what are the 3? What's my turn 3, 4, 5? And it's like, well, what are your locations? What are they playing? You know, like that's how I do it. I mean, and to a degree, everyone does that, but I'm like, I really get into that side of it. So.
Yeah, you're playing something very dynamic.
I'm a big fan of a modular, adaptive kind of game plan.
Yeah.
Roll with
Yeah.
the punches.
Me too. That's probably why we like small cards or weird
That's
cards.
exactly it. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
a lot more flexible.
And that's how you beat Loki. Play your weird ass deck. Or that, you know what I mean? Play your deck that's not a meta deck, that's not easy to just pick up the pieces of and throw down on a board. You know, like
Also, if they keep drawing cost-reduced 2 and 3 cost cards, they're not like really getting ahead in the grand scheme of things the way they would be if they were getting cost-reduced 4 and 5 cost cards.
Yeah, they're getting like a bigger percentage of the card off, but they're only getting 3 draws or something, right? So maybe 4 draws. Or 5 if they play Loki on turn 2 with Arasham. Anyway, they're limited on draws,
healthy.
Right? Yeah. This is what I find to be the biggest shame about losing the old Weird World. I'm okay with the new one, but the old one, I received so much joy from beating Arasham decks when they took my deck and I got their random deck and I won even though I had less energy. It happened several times, and it's just because I play a weirdo deck that they aren't ready for, and maybe they're missing some synergy by the time they're drawing cards from my deck.
Lauren, that's what I miss. Okay, like, so about Weird World, what I enjoyed about it was something you never thought about in any other game was the cards that interact with decks, right? So all of a sudden, like, I'm not playing a Koye,
Oh my
right?
gosh.
Because they're going to get the benefit. And so there's all these cards that you draw and they draw that are going to interact with your decks. And it was like, that was a fun and interesting way for me to, like, you know, I don't know, have something different to think about in the card game, and that's gone now.
When they play new Loki and they're giving you your deck at a discount, it's like, thank you.
Right, and a lot of people don't think about that, and that's part of probably why they hate Weird World, is because, like, they didn't think about that, and now they did something
They just
that helped
want to play
their
Rock
opponent.
Slide and not worry about it.
Yeah, right. But I enjoyed that aspect, and it made me feel much smarter than them when I didn't play a
Weird World is up.
They did, yeah.
Weird World's up
I think
with
it was more skill
Lechugia,
testing.
and you just keep dumping cards on Lechugia, and you're like, here, take all the rocks, they're yours.
Gosh, we're gonna
I miss
they
Weird World.
removed Weird World because it was overwhelmingly unpopular. So I feel like if we were to get mail, we're gonna get a bunch of hate mail from all the people who are like, stop
I don't think we're
reminiscing
gonna
about
win
Weird
a lot
World.
of hearts and minds.
Like, the good old days of Weird World. Okay. Anyway, so that was my first Infinite ticket. I beat a Loki Irisham. I was like, you just try to play my deck better than me. Can't do it.
Okay.
You come at the re, you best not miss.
Correct. You are correct.
Okay. To sum up my week in Snap, it's been fine, but I would like to tell a little story about a certain title in the game. I was knocking out Alliance bounties the other day. I did 6 or so of the move 7 cards in one match. I did like 6 of them in a row. Playing a silly deck, a silly fun deck where that's all the point. That's the whole point, is to move cards. I don't care win or lose. So that's part of the reason why I have a giant pile of silver tickets, is because I'm doing bounties and proving grounds. And I was winning a handful, and I was like, I have so many silver tickets. I should go there. I'm not going to win a ton, but if I do, I at least get more than 15 medals. So I'm hanging out in silver. I lose like 4 matches in a row. I'm like, okay, fine. Next match, I'm going to drop the I'm losing, because I'm getting hit by the rude emotes from a winner. I'm like, guys, I'm not even like, isn't it obvious that I'm not trying to win. I'm playing a silly bounty deck. Anyway, I was taking it personally, which is not good. I advise against doing so. But I go right into the match, snap on turn 1, hit I'm losing. My opponent snaps too, and I'm like, oh, well, wouldn't it be funny? And sure enough, I win the 8-cuber.
Nice.
They stay for the next match. I win that too. Ben, you'd be proud. I won that turn 6 by playing Polaris alone, and she pulled a card into Fisk Tower and Kingpin. It was beautiful.
Oh, that's 11 points right there.
I felt so bad for the fake out I'm losing and then just destroying this opponent.
Oh my gosh, you deceived them. Don't you know that this was supposed to be fun and casual and just for the bounties, and there you are crushing dreams.
I felt like such a jerk. And then it goes to the finale screen and it shows me winning and it shows my title that was randomly selected from my favorites list, Kind of a Jerk. And I was like, it was relieving. It was like, oh, I told them up front. I felt so much better about it. So that is anyway, that's why that title is one of my favorites. I don't usually let it happen randomly. I usually pick it when I'm playing a Sandman deck or something, but
here's the hilarious other side to this story. It's where the player matches Lauren, sees Lauren's whole get up and is like, click, mute. Didn't see any of the emotes the entire time.
That is possible. Yeah, they were just maybe they thought they were improving grounds and they were doing an 8 cube. I don't know what happened. Anyway.
Also, I couldn't find a good opportunity to weave this in, but jerkin' hard or hardly jerkin'. Okay, now that I've gotten that off my chest, we can move on.
It fit in so naturally, too.
I know, okay. What a segue.
This week's new card, Emperor Hulkling, is a 6/11. At the start of the game, copy the text of a random 6-cost card. Last week, Ben was very against this card. I was so on this card. I think it's bad. I thought it would be bad, but that it would have an okay cube rate. And Ree felt like being a contrarian, is my understanding of what happened. How do we feel about Hulkling now that you maybe got your hands on him? Also, did you get him?
I have not acquired him yet, but I was tempted, mostly for the podcast, to be honest, because I don't think I have ever condemned a card in such strong terms. But I still don't. Resources are finite. There are cool cards coming up in the coming seasons, so I don't think I'm gonna do it just for the lulz, if you will. But I have done a lot of I was scouring Twitter for the best Emperor Hulkling decks, and I have to say I'm not convinced. I saw a lot of really good players saying I'm doing okay with this, and they have thought of more clever things to do with Emperor Hulkling than I would have, and that doesn't surprise me because, as I have stated and will state again, I'm team small cards. I'm not even thinking about what to do with a large thing. I mean, it doesn't shock me that I didn't crack the code. I saw a promising Black Knight Emperor Hulkling deck. I've seen a couple other things. It mostly seems like you should probably play Magneto or Red Hulk or a good card. In fact, the first time I ran into Emperor Hulkling, I took a screenshot on my phone because it was the aforementioned bad Magneto. And above average Hulkling is worse than normal Magneto, is my feeling. Yeah. That's Emperor Hulkling. I wish everyone who got him the best. And I hope everyone's having a lot of fun.
Ree, did you get him?
Okay, so in a little deja vu to our last podcast episode, as I mentioned, I have very limited resources as well and a specific spotlight key plan, and I had 6,300 tokens and plenty of cards I don't have. So did I get Hulkling? Yes, I did.
Oh, may I quickly, where are we on collections, the three of us? How many cards are we missing?
6-ish.
Okay.
Around there, I used to know exactly. My collection level is 16k something, I think. I don't know. I don't. I'm not about the numbers, Ben.
Well, I like to know, do we have all the cards, most of the cards, some of the cards? what's the? I don't know.
No, you just caught
Sorry
me
for
off guard.
derailing.
This is
I
where
was
like
curious.
people used to be able. I used to be able to rattle off my PC specs, and brag about everything I built.
Whoa.
And it's like I used to know exactly how many cards I was missing. Pretty close to exactly what my collection level was. And now I don't. So it's like, fuck. I'm not gonna impress.
I think that the cards is more important than the collection level.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yes, so I am missing. I'm missing Ajax. Like there are cards I could get that are considered good meta cards. Super Giant's been one I maybe worth playing with. Maybe
I'm missing
also
Proxima
don't have
and
Super
Corvus.
Oh, that's so gross, Lauren. Why?
I know, but you love discard and I don't.
Okay,
so
that's
they seemed like easy skips.
Okay, yeah, that's exactly why
Okay.
you should skip cards.
Did you get Hulkling to spite us?
Mostly yes.
I appreciate your honesty. I'm sorry that I forced you into that corner. I feel bad.
All right. Here's why you were incorrect. And remember how I said if I got Hulkling, I would make a deck that would make you eat your words. How about we see where this ends. Okay, so yes, I got Hulkling. Here's the first thing I did with Hulkling is I opened a new deck and I put Hulkling in. And of course, immediately I put Wiccan in so they could be together. Because as I said, they're very cute. So that was our first step. Third, Agatha. Okay, and this was before we knew all the facts about Hulkling. Because the name of the deck...
I think we knew enough of the facts.
The name of the deck is called Will the Real Agatha Please Stand Up? Because the goal is to get Hulkling and Agatha to both be Agatha and then determine who is Agatha Prime. Who reigns supreme? Who gets to decide where the cards go? Which one is further to the left? These are the questions we needed to know and answer. Which one plays itself immediately? Like, this is the goal.
No, these are good questions.
For science.
All right, and this wasn't just me being, ignorant.
No, you're a hero.
We didn't know at the time that facts we knew later. The tragic ending, spoilers. There's a bit of a tragic ending to this tale. But there's triumph. There's got to be heartbreak. Okay. Anyway, so Agatha, Quicksilver, Domino. Of all the 3 discards, we got Sif, Moon Knight, Gambit, right? Classic Agatha, Ghost Rider. You got to pull back your Agatha or Hulkling somehow. Cersei, because that's fun. And what else are you gonna do with Quicksilver and Domino? And Blink. And okay, I have to give credit to my friend Frank for this one, because I was like, what's the last card? I did build this on stream. What's the last one we put in? And he was like, okay, but Blink, then you can turn Wiccan into Hulkling. I'm like, sold. What is he gonna do? So, and okay, believe it or not, I kept winning with this fucking deck. Okay, because here's the thing. So, I mean, I haven't actually played Agatha in so long because I like to play games. I don't like to watch other people play games. She's set as a streamer. Okay, but like, so I don't like to watch Agatha play. I prefer to play. But this was so fun. So like, because here's the thing: if Agatha played Wiccan for us a lot, which let her play herself a turn early. You know what I mean? Because Wiccan's my only 4-cost card in the Ghost Rider's in there too. But in the 3, so it ended up, I guess, kind of working like an Agatha. I almost said I was gonna stream until I got Hulkling to be Agatha, and I'm so glad I didn't make that commitment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
I kind of wanted to know the answer for science.
We put
which
together
one gets played first.
This deck, okay, and I took it to Conquest Proving Grounds, okay, and we come up, and it's Loki Arishem, okay. This is like the very first game with this deck is Loki Arishem. Like, the meta deck. Will we crash and burn so hard that we'll have to admit Ben Roller was right about Hulkling? This is the stakes. And okay, so it comes out. So Agatha plays Quicksilver, Domino. They play Loki on turn 3. They play Loki on turn 3. And then they retreat. And then they concede. The top meta deck! The top meta deck! Right now!
Sounds conclusive to me.
Retreated, conceded. Yeah. Take my deck, Loki Irisham. Enjoy my Agatha.
But we still don't have an answer on the Agatha thing.
So, okay, so then later, so I did have to end the stream after, some hilarious victories, to be quite honest with you. The other deck we might have made was gonna be all the Hulks plus Hulkling. We were workshopping names, like oodles of Hulk boodles. Bulks of Hulks. Anyway, okay. Naming of decks is very important in decks. So that was Wombat Hamlet's idea. I want to take credit for it. Later we find out there's a team answer where someone's like, hey, are there any cards Hulkling won't copy? So we know there's an error with Hulkling where he can copy himself, and they didn't intend for that, and they're going to fix it. And they're like, okay, yes. Also, he can't copy Agatha and Thanos. And I had to be like, well, it was all in vain. It was all for nothing. Who is Agatha Prime? Agatha. Agatha is always Agatha Prime.
Agatha all along.
It was Agatha.
Indeed.
So,
perfect.
So what's your ruling on Hulkling?
Oh, okay. So honest ruling, playing anecdotally, the card he turned into most for me was Infinite. So, I was just like, oh.
Ooh.
Oh, you dear sweet child. No.
No.
Not Infinite. So, okay. So, there's that. But epic moment. I don't remember. I'm going to say it was a lot of cubes, but I honestly don't remember. Of a destroy deck where a Hulkling was a 640 because he was a null when we were playing a destroy deck. And this brings about the point of Hulkling is that you can't play around Hulkling because you don't know as an opponent, because you don't know what Hulkling is. So did they have any clue that I had a Hulkling null, a null that beats their null in my hand? No. So the thing with Hulkling is he's not a card that you can build strategies around, but he is a card that can win you cubes. So where Hulkling goes, from what I can see, is decks like where you're putting in a bunch of big sixers. So like that's why Agatha worked for him, right? That's why my Agatha deck worked, even if he couldn't be an Agatha himself. Like a Hella deck where you're like, wouldn't it just be swell if he was an Arnim Zola that copied your other big, like card you pulled? So that, and I think Ramp, where you're like, you have a bunch of sixers, you're not probably even going to play all of them, and maybe he was a good one. He's kind of a wild card. So I think that's Hulkling's home is going to be either like discard style ramps, other style ramps, or like nonsense meme decks, that you can just have fun with and maybe don't trigger very often, but gets you cubes when they do. So that's my real thing. But I had fun. It was worth. And I made the top meta deck. Well, I don't, I guess you could argue about the top meta deck, but in my mind anyway, it knelt to me and Hulkling. So I win. That's where I'm at.
Oh yeah. Thwart the oppressor. All that. That's great. I worry a little bit about, I think I see why Emperor Hulkling probably performs better in like a discard ramp kind of thing, but even there he could really throw a wrench into the works if you're trying to reanimate things and you can't control what you're discarding. Like if you're sifting out your big things, like you resurrect a destroyer, you still played destroyer. I don't know.
He was a destroyer in my hand and unable to be played, therefore that did happen. So
That's what makes the Black Knight deck the most appealing to me if we're talking about making Hulkling good. Now, I am entirely in favor of cards that are just fun. It's just you have to know if that's how you want to spend your resources. Like, they are scarce, they are precious, and if you're going to spend them on fun cards, you're going to miss some good cards, and you have to be okay
Yeah.
with that.
This
That's
would be
part
a
of the
great
reason.
Series 4 card.
Yeah, right? It's part of the reason why I skip Proxima and Corvus. There are sometimes I see a discard deck that looks really fun, and I would love to have them, and I know they're good cards, but I also know that I would hardly ever use them. And so I decided to save those keys for cards that seem more fun to me, not necessarily strong cards. Um, yeah. I've played 3 hours since Hulkling's release. I haven't seen him once.
Oh.
So
I've
maybe
played
that's a good
against him
thing.
multiple times, actually.
Yeah, I ran into a few.
So I can't really say a lot about him. I haven't played him, and I haven't seen opponents play him.
I think I lost to one, but I could have. Maybe.
I am so irritated that he can't copy Thanos or himself. This is like just as somebody who loves the mechanics of the game and the parts of the cards that go deeper than the text. I don't see why he shouldn't copy Thanos, other than it sucks when Hulkling starts in your hand. But like that should be part of hitting a random 6 cost. Is there are bad hits. If you ask me, I think
Yeah.
Destroyer is a worse hit than Thanos.
Yes.
Oh yeah, no,
So-
definitely.
So it really bothers me that Thanos isn't there, and so that people don't complain about him not generating stones. Maybe, but we've already addressed that with Arishem. When Arishem generates Thanos, he doesn't make stones, but he does start in your hand. I don't know. It bothers me mechanically that he can't.
Do you
that.
wish it just worked like the shield card generation stuff?
Yeah, I wish it was a true random 6 card instead of one that had 3 or 4 exceptions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
But
do
they
also
do run into
really
problems then, like the whole question of the Agatha thing, that they would have to figure out who wins
Right.
in Agatha versus Hulkling.
Well, I could tell you if you wanted to get really into it, but because Agatha starts in your hand at the beginning of the game, and Hulkling copies at the beginning of the game. Beginning of the game happens only once, so Hulkling Agatha would not start in your hand. Now, if they were both in your hand,
I thought
which
the question was about which one would get played from hand first.
yeah, and which one is doing the playing, that I don't know. And it's an important question.
But like, okay, so that's not
Sort
a
of.
real thing, but I won't lie, all of you talking made me want to mess with Hulkling in a destroy deck. Because I haven't found like a fun offbeat destroy deck for me that's not like normie destroy. And it's like, but like, you're right, you could get a destroyer, you can get a null, you can get an Arnim
Zola.
Zola. Like, I'll mess around with it. I feel like there's fun for me to be had with Wiccan
Galactus?
and Hulkin. I see why people are really down, and I agree. If you're someone that doesn't want a frustrating card, you may not be the card, but I don't regret. I mean, but yeah, I mean, you're talking to the person who spent 6k tokens on Makari, who was high on Makari before Makari released and stayed high after.
Wait, did you like Makari when it was a 3/3?
I liked Makari all the time, to be honest. Yes.
Interesting.
And I have no regrets about spending tokens with her, and she's been amazing for me.
No,
But,
no,
like,
it's a real card for sure.
it's the kind of decks you play, and I know part of the reason my decks succeed is because I'm not playing. You know, people don't always know how to play against a deck that they don't see all the time.
I'm familiar with the
That's the
phenomenon.
off-meta
Yeah.
Right, that's the off-meta strength. Is you may not be playing the strongest thing, but you have an edge because your opponent has no idea what they're playing
Right,
against.
where they've seen like Deadpool Destroy, or oh man, or I wanted to complain about it. Who keeps putting swarms with Dracula? I keep facing all these other discard decks, and they've got Dracula and swarms and Helicarrier, and it's like, I want to tell people that they can do them, but like, no, don't put Dracula with those cards. Dracula does not go with Helicarrier, does not go with Swarm.
Swarm's fine because you can dump your zeros, but
Yeah, unless you draw
is
Swarm
wild.
on turn 6, which is
Fair.
I've gotten sick of it. I'm not doing it anymore. That's actually why I built the discard deck I was talking about before we started recording.
It's why this deck used to run Chavez.
I've beaten those other discard decks that I faced by getting them to have to, like, yeah, here. I've hit you with my Moon Knight. Now you just have more chances on turn 6 for your Dracula to hit that swarm you have in your hand. Like, it's just I've been beating them, and part of it is because my Dracula deck, my Draculas get big. They're not fucking hitting a swarm. Anyway, I don't
You're
know.
right.
Someone put a deck out there. I've seen a lot of Helicarrier. I don't know if some big content creator put one out, but like all of a sudden I've been seeing a lot of Helicarrier discard with Dracula. No,
there is somebody who's like top 10 who's running Helicarrier right now. I can't think of who it is.
I disagree very much with their inclusion of Dracula in the deck, to be honest. But okay, sorry.
I mean, now that you mention it, most of the times I beat Dracula, it's because it hits swarm. Okay, I cannot believe how much we talked about Hulkling. We're gonna move on.
I'm glad we did. I think it was fruitful.
It's a card. We're gonna move on to next season, which is next week's cards, which next week starts a new season, Spider-Verse season. I'm very excited about that, at least character-wise. I love Spider-Verse characters. We're going to rank all of them, not just talk about the Season Pass card and the Spotlight card. Included in our ranking is Uncle Ben and Tombstone, who we don't know 100% sure are coming this season, but it feels really likely. They're Spider-Man characters, and we know that there's a new card acquisition system coming.
I think they should be in their own separate division since we don't know how they're going to be acquired, and also it's kind of funny just to pit Uncle Ben against Tombstone.
I agree that's really funny. But if a player doesn't acquire them the normal way, the first way, the Snap Packs way, then it's in the future these will be token cards and Spotlight cards. So I think that there's an argument for including them. I'm happy to go either way, though.
What do you think, Ree?
Okay, honestly, I just want to talk about the activate keyword because that affects how I rank everything.
Yes.
Okay.
And okay, honestly, when I come down with this, I agree with Ben because that's how I already thought about the cards, to be honest. And then it's like I don't know.
We will do them separate. I think it's more information if they're stacked with the others. You will know if I like Uncle Ben or Tombstone more by which one is ranked higher among the 7.
I don't have a strong opinion on this.
All right. Well,
rock, paper, scissors this.
How shall we I don't know.
Are you prepared to fit them into your 7?
Number 6 and 7 for me. I don't know where they would fit. I think Uncle Ben would be somewhere in my top 5, but I don't think Tombstone would be.
Okay, well, spoilers. Okay, let's do them separately, but then try to shove them in also at the end. Let's do both.
Okie dokie.
Okay, because we'll go in release order anyway.
All right, here is my problem with the activate keyword. Sorry, I was noodling this before the podcast, so it's like on my head. All right, so I know everyone's been thinking about, hey, can you layer it with playing cards? Or is it just like all activates, all, like that kind of order? But for me, the biggest, most important thing that we really don't know is can you activate a card the turn you play it? And we've been thinking no. But that means that almost all activate cards are like not useful on turn 6, which ruins most of them. That's a big thing for me. I don't tend to play a lot of cards because like I was talking about earlier, my play style tends to be more versatile. I want to have the most options that I can on any given turn, and having dead cards in my hand on turn 6, it's like it kills me because I am a huge Jessica Jones fan. I read Alias, which is her original comic that Brian Michael Bendis invented her back in the day before it was a TV show. Like I was doing my nerd hipster thing where like, you've got to read this comic Alias, and no one gave a shit about it. Just want to make a TV show about it. Anyway, I'm not bitter about that. But but I won't play her because she's not good on turn 6. And so it's like all of these activate cards are way lower for me because of that, to be honest with you.
But I think there are tons of cards in the game that aren't good on turn 6.
Yeah.
Including cards that you play.
I mean,
right?
Moon
that I play
Knight?
a lot. Look
That,
at
that,
what
that crucial turn 6 Moon Knight.
Yes, I do, to discard APOC again, so when Drag hits him, he's even fucking bigger, Ben.
All right. But
Oh my god,
you
do
see
I
what
want
I'm
to play
saying.
Gambit on turn 6? Yes, right? Do I
Mhm.
want to play Meek? Yes, and I'm playing MODOK right after him. Like, yeah, no,
Mhm.
that's
About
how I build
MODOK
my
on
decks.
six?
Huh?
Okay. But the upside to an activate card is you can play it on any turn 1 through 5, assuming the energy is there, and then use it on turn 6.
You're already getting like so much flexibility that way. And also, if all activate cards have haste, it's just better than on reveal. Just better.
Magic the Gathering speak.
I mean, are we gonna pretend that we don't know about other card games?
Okay. Okay, wait.
I guess
sorry.
we could call it
I got lost
Rushed
in
or
the Magic the
whatever
Gathering
the
reference.
thing is.
What were you saying? If they all had haste, what?
Yeah, if they all have haste, it's just better on reveal. It's just anything on reveal can do,
You're right.
activate with haste can do. And
But is
that
it
just like
that activates are
pushes
weaker
the
then,
game.
you know?
That would
They
be
have a
one way to
different
do it.
strength.
That does not appear to be the approach they've taken, though.
That's true.
We're looking
strength
at some
is you
very
can use
strong
that-
activate effects like Fenris Wolf.
Right. Their strength is that you can pay for them ahead of time, but then use their ability later.
I know.
There's a bunch of on reveals that would be very strong if you could do that.
Mm-hmm.
But
It's an upgrade. Even if it is less flexible on turn 6 specifically, I think in general I would rather have any effect as an activate as a general rule. I'm sure there are edge cases where on reveal is the right thing for the effect, but I think overall the power level of activate is higher than on reveal.
The trade-off for me, I think, is 3 or below. I don't want to have a 4 or up cost card that I can't play on turn 6. You know what I mean? Like,
I
the
agree,
cards
it
that I
does
will
get a
conclude,
little...
like Spider Ham, stuff like that, where it's like, okay, if I draw that late, fine. But I mean, and it's just my playstyle. I'm not saying like it's wrong or they're not strong enough if you can't play them turn 6. I love to have all of my options, and having dead cards in my hand on turn 6 just bums me out.
Yeah.
Man.
I get that.
It is limiting to their power level. Like a couple of the cards we're going to talk about, I think it is a meaningfully double-edged effect on the big ones, your Scarlet Spider and your Symbiote Spider-Man. They're kind of pushing it. That's
I agree.
a 4 cost with activate is not as good as a 2 cost with activate for the reason you've described.
Yeah, and you don't get to surprise your opponent with it. I mean, maybe that's an argument for a strong argument towards they will let you sequence with on reveals, because that's one of the biggest advantages. That would be one of the biggest advantages for a high cost activate card, is that it lets you time it with your on reveals.
But being able to see it coming is a big I mean, look at Wong, right? I mean, he's running wild now because nobody respects Cosmo anymore. But but it's it used to be Wong never got played because as soon as you saw it coming, you threw it down, and that's because you knew how powerful Wong was. And it really shows the power creep in the game that Wong is so prevalent, and people still aren't just playing Cosmo rampantly. To be honest, right?
For me personally, I always excuse myself from thinking about Cosmo by playing Spider-Man or Magneto, because they also screw with Wong hardcore.
And Juggernaut, that was that was my counter to Wong. Yeah, that's fair.
I like Clog.
Okay. So I will say that I'm taking the reading of activate that you cannot activate on the turn that the card is played, and I have taken that reading of it, and it has affected my rankings. Obviously, to a much greater degree than either of you. I'm ready.
Yeah, can we maybe agree? And if we can't, we'll discuss it. But can we agree? Activate is either you expand the card and hit activate, or you long press the card. Somehow, you use the ability on a face-up card, and you can sequence it with on reveals.
I think that's the most likely.
Okay.
But I
Okay,
think
so
it's
that's
also
how we
worth,
will.
mentioning how it would affect a card if it doesn't layer
I
like
will
that.
say
Yeah.
I'm a little more high on the thought that like maybe all activates would happen before on reveals. Just because I do think Second Dinner, their design philosophy has always been to keep it as simple as possible and
That
as
would be,
intuitive as
yep.
possible, and layering things in a Magic the Gathering like order of attack operations,
Hmm.
as we've previously discussed, they've been trying to avoid. So while I do think it does make sense, maybe you can layer him. I would not at all be surprised if they're just like all activates, all on reveals.
It could
I agree
definitely
with
be
you.
either thing with the information
Yeah.
we have at the moment.
But I think they want the game to be intuitive, like easy to use and not a lot of interface clutter, but they get elegance by extracting complexity from simple interactions. Like you can play a card in any of 3 lanes. That's a decision not just on timing, but on location is a huge decision that makes the game more complex, but in like little tiny bite-sized pieces over and over again. And so I think yeah, argument for either side.
Yeah, like the way they recently gutted move, I don't know. That would seem
Yeah.
to lend some credence to Ree's interpretation.
The move change is the only reason we're even really discussing it, right? Like if move hadn't
Yeah.
changed, we would just assume activate was sequenceable.
Yeah,
Well, I'm
I
sure
think you're right, but
we'll
I
discuss
tend
both
to,
outcomes
yeah.
or both possibilities with each of the activate cards as seems applicable.
And also think about
Okay.
the complexity of trying to think about what your opponent's doing as well as what you're doing. It's just easier if when you're thinking about what they're doing, you know what I mean? All activates and then on reveals. So
Hmm.
I don't know. We will find out, I guess. Mm.
Okay. First card, our season pass card, Symbiote Spider-Man, is a 4/6 with the keyword activate. Merge your lowest cost card here with this. Copy its text like it just revealed.
Well,
This is my number 2.
it's my number 3.
Wait, is one the best?
Yes.
Yes.
That's a very good question.
It is my number 4, I think, to be honest. And it once again
4
it's
out
the
of 5
activate.
for
It's a
season
4
pass and
up
spotlights.
cost. It's a 4 up cost that maybe I can't play
It's-
on 6, and that bums me out.
That's definitely its
Yep.
biggest downside. Is
That
it
is-
is an
yep.
expensive activate card, which
I think-
means you're repeating what, a 5 cost or something that you played in one of the first few turns. Unless you can sequence, then you can play a 6 cost card and then activate Symbiote Spider-Man, which is going to be a cool Galactus play.
That would be cool. Yes. I think that there's a tempting, like you wanna compare it to maybe Absorbing Man or something because it's the same cost and it does a kind of similar thing. Or you could say it's like an Odin Hulkbuster kind of thing. I mean, it's got a lot of familiar elements that we've seen before, but I think the activate might be hurting it a little bit for the reason we were discussing. I can't think of anything. Well, I can think of some things that are exciting to do with Symbiote Spider-Man, but I don't think I've really thought about everything. I bet he's good in Nomura decks. I also think that depending on how Activate works, if it does happen to go, if it can be interspersed with on reveals, you can have a lot of fun probably with Black Panther and Arnim Zola. So like you play Panther and then put the Symbiote Spider-Man activation on, so Black Panther doubles up to 8, and then Symbiote Spider-Man's what, a 4/6? Is that correct?
Yeah, so then it goes 14, and then it doubles again
And then
to 28.
And then if you Zola that on the next turn, that's 56 power on 2 lanes,
56.
which traditionally tends to win a game.
Yeah.
But that is like, that's some blue sky solutioneering I'm pitching here. And like, everything has to go your way and no one can rain on your parade and you have to get the cards in that order, more or less,
Right. Clog eats him alive.
Yeah.
Because he targets the lowest,
Yep.
what is it, lowest
have,
cost,
have
lowest power?
fun with that big rock.
Lowest cost. It's pretty limiting. I think there will be some very clever things that people come up with to do with it.
Undoubtedly.
I'm very surprised it's the season pass card. It seems a lot more complicated than the other two activate cards.
I hope it
I agree.
surprises me. I'm just like, it's so expensive and I can't play it last turn.
I think it's cool as Shuri.
Mm-hmm.
You get a 4/12 and repeat that for going into turn 6.
Shuri doubles the coolness of any card. So, right, sorry, crack myself up too much. Okay.
Okay, yeah, doubles the coolness. I think that's what your text says.
Yep.
I do think that there's one small thing is that he kind of has the ability of a Vision Nightcrawler where he can unfill a lane.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's actually a really strong ability to unfill a lane, not just for locations like Raft and White Hot Room, but also it's anti-clog, and your opponent might think that spot's full and then it's not. Obviously, that's more powerful with a move card, but I still think that's one thing that he's got going for him. That's
definitely a point in his favor.
Yeah. Okay. Next card. This will be the same week, but the spotlight is Silver Sable, a 1/1. On reveal, steal 2 power from the top card of your opponent's deck.
I've got this one ranked at number 5 out of the 5 Spotlight and Season Pass cards.
Same.
I think it's worse than America Chavez, a widely underestimated card, and so I think she's probably still sort of fine. You know, America can be part of your deck's plan, but getting extra value from Silver Sable is going to be largely a matter of luck and whatever you can eke out from the Affliction synergy, which is just Ajax and Evolved Abomination at this point. So I don't see Silver Sable being a must own for anybody. I don't know.
I put her higher in my rankings because she's not an activate card. Which, as I said, she was my number.
I love a strong preference.
She was my number 2 because she is not an activate card.
Holy moly!
Here's why, though, and I guess she doesn't have all the and I actually am skipping her, and it makes me sad because the character's cool, and a lot of people are gonna get her and be hot on her. But yeah, my opinion is she goes in Ajax decks or bounce decks, particularly bounce decks. Right, and I'm not a fan of bounce, to be honest.
Yeah.
And since I don't have Ajax and I'm not gonna play, and I don't really play bounce, I'm not gonna pick her up. But I think she's great in bounce or Ajax. Like, right, if you have Ajax, probably. Why wouldn't you have Silver Sable in your deck?
I have her down as a bounce card, but I think for Ajax and really like anything Silver Sable's doing, I think Selene is better.
Yep.
It still depends on Europe.
Play an Affliction Zoo. Have fun. But I think she'll be good in that genre of deck, in my opinion. As well as just bounce, right? Just like pick her up 3 times and just annoy your opponent.
I'm really hoping to get her as the random one from a Spotlight cache, because I will be happy to own Silver Sable. I just don't think it will be an effective use of my resources. But no, definitely a cool card. I'm rooting for her.
From the fun side too, right? Her with Cassandra Nova, like you're gonna have a lot of fun when you see them put out their when they can't play their 3-1 brood.
That is going to be fun.
Or they would, because then they'd surfer it. They'd have a 3-1. Okay, anyway. So
is it better to hit the top card of your opponent's deck than it is to hit the lowest power card in their hand? Like, honest question. I
feel like the card in their hand.
I think hitting the lowest power card is better.
I agree, but also just think about throwing her and Cassandra Nova and Wong. Just fun. Anyway, but yeah, no, I see where you're coming, and a lot of my ranking comes from how low I am. The activatability particularly the higher the cost cards go.
Yep, I think that's good thinking.
Okay.
Next week, Madame Web, now a 2/1, ongoing. You can move one of your other cards away from here each turn. I think this ability is awesome, which it makes me not surprised that they changed it from a 2-3 to 2-1 ahead of launch.
Mhm.
At 2-3, I think it won in everything.
Yep.
Anyway,
It's not
now,
just a move card. This is a card
nowadays
for people who want to dictate the flow of the game.
Yeah, nowadays I have it as my number 3, and I'm very excited for her because I think she might revive Lockdown, which is my favorite archetype.
Interesting.
Because
I've
then I
got
can
Madame
move
Web.
things into Storm and Professor X.
Yeah, you can. But I don't. Professor X is so iffy these days. I don't know.
It's so sad.
Yeah.
I have had fun
Sad
with
for me.
Professor
I mean,
X,
it's sad
my
for
Storm
people
Legion
who
deck.
like that strategy. I've got Madame Web at number 1 personally. She's obviously great with Dagger and Vulture, 2 of my favorite cards, and their weird little friend Human Torch, who I don't care for as much. But also, this is a good card with stuff like Hope, Elsa, anything that wants you to start here and go there. Solves unreachable locations. I just think like so much of the power of move is knowing that you can put the power where you want by the end of the game, and this is just more of that, and also just such a small commitment, just one card, and you're dictating the terms for like where everything goes. I don't know.
Are you gonna play this with Mystique or
Ooh.
Hercules?
Wow, that's I don't know if Hercules is invited. I kind of think Hercules has a genuinely undesirable effect.
Yeah, that it's random where it goes, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah,
I don't
wonder
think
if they someday
that.
change him. I wonder if he someday change him that he just launches them back to where they came from.
I wouldn't be
would like that
surprised. Look
much
how
better.
they changed Stegron. It's like any of the. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Silly question. If you play what's his face? 6-7 big guy Onslaught. If you play Onslaught, can you move 2 cards each turn?
That's a great question. I bet no.
I would tend to agree. I would tend to
Yeah,
agree.
I'm like
that
40-60.
Do you know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of trying to move Nightcrawler or Jeff onto a cloak lane. You will burn their move.
Yes, that's a great example.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. I was like, is it my turn? I'm so excited. Okay. Madame Web was also my number 1. And not originally, because I was just like, okay, I get for me, I'm not a move player. I keep trying, mostly so I can play Ben's decks, but like, I'm just like, Werewolf is the most I've ever gotten into move. But, and that's, like, obviously, my move is usually the Silky Smooth, the Elsa, Angela style decks. But my first thought when I see Madame Web is she's a Ravonna card. Sorry, Ravonna is one of my favorite cards. So any card that goes with Ravonna is something I want to get automatically. So and that ties into like Professor X, like you were saying. But I was thinking more like, okay, so with Ravonna, I'd probably put her with like Sage, Ironheart, Shuri, Werewolf, and Wong, right? She lets you move more stuff off of Wong to get more, move your Sage off. You got room for your Ironheart, Yes.
Can I mention one card that I think would be good in a Ravonna Madame Web deck? Iron Man. Changing which lane is getting doubled seems like a cool thing to do.
Yeah, and it would make sense, and then you're also running Mystique probably, right? So it's just, it all synergizes, right, with Ravonna. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that was my first thought because my heart always goes to Ravonna first. But the second, which is a little closer to Lauren's idea, but the second idea, which I think is actually way more exciting and interesting and probably a better deck, is she goes in junk decks so well. Think about putting her in that right column, and they're filling that up because they don't want your void when you annihilate it, right? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But now, boom, void's in a different lane.
Move the void.
That's brutal.
Your sentry
I
can
love
get moved,
that.
right?
That's very good.
And think about your debris and stuff. Madame Web is a perfect fit for junk decks.
My gosh.
That is
I
Like-
love that
brilliant.
so
I love
much.
that
Boom!
idea.
I know. I was so hyped when I saw that. I'm like, this is it, Madame Web.
Yep.
You and I will have
Wow.
so much fun together. And she's my number one card now.
She
And
might be
I
a
will
get
Valkyrie
her.
card. I like her in Jean Grey too, which is something I've been playing a bunch with
definitely a Jean
Spectrum.
Grey card.
That's so cool. You can clog up your Jean Grey early and then shove something big in at the end.
So me and Ben I love how we go opposite ways. Ben's like, greatest move card maybe ever. Well, I'm putting words
Well,
in your
also,
mouth. You said
I
nothing
think
like
it's
that.
a great control kind of thing.
Yes.
It just does the thing you should want to do in any game of Marvel Snap, where you get to pick where things go at the end. You know.
I mean, and it's also it's just a great defensive card, right? Think about all the times that'll be useful to you as a defense as well as an offense.
Yeah, very anti-clog.
But
Yep,
but
lock
also
me out
very
how.
pro clog. Anyway.
You guys are selling me. She needs to be number 1 or 2 on my list.
Join
I'll think
us.
about it.
Here at
Okay.
the top. We got webs. All right.
Araña, a 1/1.
Oh, yeah.
Another activate, so Ree hates her. Give the next card you play +2 power and move it to the right.
Okay, I'll
I mean,
start
it's a
because
very-
mine's
On this one?
short.
Okay.
Mine's short.
Great.
Ben will probably have more to say.
Maybe.
She was a number 3 for me because she's an activate, so she went down lower, but she's lower cost and therefore potentially more useful and less
Mhm.
likely that I'll be bummed if I can't play her on turn 6. But she's also she feels mostly a move card because so I have a big thing where I like to put reach in all of my deck. Like if I have no way to get into a location that is like a Sanctum Sanctorum, I'm super bummed, even if it's just Nico for the chance I draw her spell that lets me move something. But usually I want it to be like a Jeff, a Silk, somewhere that can go to any location. And this is specifically to the right, so it feels Iron Fist me. It feels like a very move centric card, and I don't play a ton of move. So that's where I'm at. I want to open that week because the Sage Spotlight is so beautiful, and the Marvel's good. But how often will I play Arana? I don't know. I'll play whatever deck Ben puts it in.
All right.
So go Ben.
Well,
That's my thoughts.
it's gonna be a mix. That's my feeling. I ranked Araña at number 4. I ranked it a little low just because it's a small card, and really good small cards are still not as impactful as really good big cards or medium cards. But yeah, I said last week that this was power creep in action, and it absolutely is. I feel about as positive as I can about a card that I ranked number 4. But it does raise for me a question: can you bounce a card after you've activated it, play it again, and activate it again, or does it have a single activation charge for its entire lifespan?
Related, what if you Zola an activate card that has been spent?
Another great question.
Okay, I have opinions on this.
Okay.
I think, yes, if you bounce it, they'll let you activate it again. Bouncing isn't so easy, especially with the cost of the cards, that I think they'll be like, that overpowers it too much, especially when you can only activate it again the next turn, right? You're going to have to bounce it fairly early to get an extra use out of
Yeah.
it. So why not? So why not give that to them? So
Yeah,
I think they will.
It does. It seems like a safe thing to allow because of how inconvenient it is to activate something twice because
Right?
of the summoning sickness that we assume is in effect.
There's also that they hate giving you cognitive load. So for you to remember if the activate card in your hand has been used or not is extra cognitive load. So I think that's an argument for yes, bouncing works.
Oh, that's so. I
All
want to
right.
use cognitive load. I'm going to use that in other areas of my life. All right. It's good for
Yeah,
What
I
about
think
Zola?
Araña is
Zola?
great, is what I'm
Yes.
saying.
Because Zola creates 2 new cards, right?
Okay.
I mean, because their on reveals happen again, right? So I don't see why.
Yeah.
I think Zola
What
creates 2
about-
new cards. No, you disagree?
But what about Legion copying a location and the copied locations have the same status? The flooding will flood the same turn now instead of being delayed by 1, right?
Also,
Didn't they
when
change
you
that?
Zola things, they keep all their bonus stats. They have the same life history as the original card, right?
Mm.
Legion
So,
has some weird
Kind of think that
interactions.
Zola wouldn't give the reactivation potential. That's my guess.
You
but
think
I don't know.
that? I think it's easier. I think it's easier and more intuitive that you would get activates on them if Zola did it. And so I think they'll go with that, to be honest.
It'll be really interesting. It would be very hard to pull off, right? Like a Zola and that. I mean,
Yeah.
magic, I guess, is the answer.
I think there'll be like other things. Like there are other ways to copy or are there? I don't know. I feel like just like the fact that you can still see all the buffs and the like the the stat changes and things, like if there's like a glow on cards that have activate, right?
Definitely, or like
so
rings
I think
or
that
something.
if the glow is extinguished, you really think that popping out a new one with Zola is going to put the glow on the card again? I kind of that seems doubtful to me.
I think
it's definitely the one I'm least sure of. Okay, what about Symbiote Spider-Man? If you use him on an activate card that has already activated, do you get to do it again?
Ooh, I think
so, because he copies
his wording
the text.
Is not it's not mentioning on reveals exactly, like.
And if those two things work differently, that's more confusing, and they don't like that.
Yeah. All right. I hope you're right about Zola, because I think that's interesting. I think Zola's a really fun combo card that doesn't get used a lot outside of silly things.
But I did want to point out that I don't think, like, Legion, like, the way Snow Guard works with locations, Legion isn't fully consistent. Like, I think if you Legion Vormir, even if the Vormir you're Legioning is already spent, the new Vormirs you will have to again spend.
I think you're right.
So,
but
right, there are other locations that the state of the location does transfer. So I don't think it's consistent across the board for Legion. As someone who has pulled a few Legion scans in their life.
I will defer to your expertise.
Did you say what you wanted to say about Araña?
I think it's great. It's just weird that I had to rank it so low just because of the other very powerful cards this month. But it's a very good card, and I am looking forward to it more than anything except Madame Web, and possibly more than Madame Web, because I think I could get annoyed with Madame Web in general. Other people's Madame Webs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. On that note,
I think I'm going to love every Araña I see. I'm just happy about this card. It's very fun. It's very small. It's very movie. I love it.
I have her as my number one right now.
Oh, yeah?
I actually think she's extremely flexible. Mm-hmm. It's not something that I do a ton, but I have probably more than the average player used Iron Fist in non-move decks for the reach. And you're right. It's in a fixed direction. So, the 1/3 of the time that the location you want to reach is on the left, then Araña is not helpful. But I think that a lot of decks like doing move. But Iron Fist by itself doesn't justify a deck slot unless you're comboing. Mm-hmm. Araña now is also a +2, and what deck doesn't want +2?
Like around.
Cerebro is maybe the only deck that doesn't want the +2.
Maybe.
Sure. In C2, you use her on Cerebro or Mystique. Oh gosh, that makes me just thinking about Mystique and Araña, like that you can activate something and it messes up with the timing of your, like, it doesn't become your last played card when you do the activation.
Yep.
That makes me so excited. That's fun. Anyway, I think that being a +2 that's cheaper than Forge and also a move over one to the, I think every deck is happy to have that. And it's a great utility card. It's 2 Nico spells in one. For 1 less power.
Yep, that's exactly what it is.
I might be convinced to move Madame Web up, but Araña is very high, and I think she's a wonderful card.
She's with some sexy ass spotlights, to be honest.
From my reading of Araña, I think that her +2 power works like Forge and not like Nico's, and you can do it.
The text is the same.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then you get to split up your brood.
I think Nico is after you, your next card gets +2 after you play it. Or something
which is how all of her spells are worded, right? But I checked, and Araña is
but this one's
just
Forge
like Forge's.
Okay, I have a last note.
Fun and Surfer.
For Araña. Man, I cannot say her name. I have a last note for her before we move on, though. which is that I'd seen her around, but I was not very familiar with her from the comics. But Marvel just came out with a new title. It just came out like last week or a week ago. It is called the Spider Society. And it features a lot of the Spider-Verse movie characters. So it's got Ghost Spider, it's got Miles, Spider-Ham's in there. So if you're interested in getting to find Araña is a prominent character there. So if you're interested in learning about these spiders and you want an in that's easier maybe because you're familiar with the Spider-Verse characters from the movie, Spider Society #1. It just came out. I picked it up. The first issue was fun. We'll see where it goes. Madame Web's in there, you know?
Yeah, these are characters I'm actually read up on in the comics because I've read a lot of Spider-Verse, definitely the events, but also some of the spin-offs of Spider characters. That's my most well-read area of Marvel.
Nice.
Anyway.
Cool. I don't know much about Araña, but I'm excited about the ability. And I would love to learn more about the character. I'm not resistant to learning more lore. So. I don't happen to know any yet, and I don't need to, but it would be fun. It would be nice. Might make a trip to my local library.
We're going to jump forward 1 week to Scarlet Spider, a 4/5, another activate. Add an exact clone of this to another location, which is a very thematic ability.
Mm-hmm.
Who wants to take this one?
I went last time. Ben should go first.
All right. I'll say it. This is my #2. So much stats. Where a card like Zemo taking up more board space, that's a disadvantage. You're crowding a single location, really limiting your future there. Oh no, boo-hoo. But it's an asset for Scarlet Spider because you're guaranteed to go wide. So much stats. Biggest weakness is he's bad on 6, as we've discussed. But yeah, just do Sebastian Shaw type stuff with him. You can keep growing him on the board. You can grow him in hand. I mean, this is just a very... I don't know if this card is going to stay like this because it seems like the math just seems nuts. That's my take. I only have it as #2 because Madame Web really gives you a lot of control over the game. But Scarlet Spider just seems like undeniable power.
He bums me out because obviously if this was an on reveal it would be too OP, but like he's my last place. He would have been my first place if this was an on reveal. Because I want to Gwenpool. Isn't he better
in some ways? Isn't he better as an activate? Because then you can buff
I can't play him on turn 6. If I Gwenpool him on 4...
Drop him on 5, buff him with Ironheart.
But that's limiting the turn. So if my goal is to Gwenpool him, that's one of the ways I want to use him. Now I'm limited to being able to play him on one turn, which is turn 5, right?
Yeah, it does lock you in for turn 5. It's true.
So that means, okay, and I do not like to play synergistic decks, right? If I'm playing Gwenpool, I want her to hit cards I can play on turn 5 or 6. I don't want her to hit a card that I now can only play on turn 5. So therefore, I'm not putting Gwenpool in my Scarlet Spider deck, and that ruins it for me. I want to play Gwenpool. So I don't know. So it's like, this is such a bummer to me because I'm so low on activate. This card, because I love buff decks. I love buff. Yeah. I played Okoye and Nakia way before they were cool. Before Nakia was buff.
They're still not cool, Ree. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Still not cool.
Wrong. But okay. Anyway, I put together Okoye Nakia decks because I love buffing cards. I call it party buffs.
I'm out here singing the praises of America Chavez, but I cannot find a kind word for Okoye.
Right? This card is like, it's the card that I want to put in that deck, but because I can't play it on 6, I just don't. There's other cards I'd rather put. It's like, so that's.
Are you too anti-magic?
No,
Are you too anti-magic?
I am personally, but like when evaluating cards, I do like to consider magic. Yes.
Magic is one of the only cards, one of the few cards I'll put in that I can't play on turn 6. But even then, the bias comes in. I don't tend to play a ton of Magic decks. You know, I just have this real thing where it's like, I want my cards to all be useful to me on turn 6.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, Magic lets you play him on 6.
It's
fair.
true.
If I played him, when I play him, because I'm sure I'll get him eventually, or say with Symbiote Spider-Man, I almost certainly, if I'm playing activate cards, I'm almost definitely putting Magic in there.
Yeah,
So,
I just
for me.
yeah, I think this is a
Okay,
very strong card.
Well, Scarlet
Too
Spider's
strong.
Scarlet Spider's my 5 of 5.
Interesting.
I think he has the potential to be strong, but you can smell it from a mile away, right? If
True.
he's about to split. If prio and all that is working how we think and sequencing, if your opponent has prio, they can shang you before you split Scarlet Spider. I think he, as mentioned, he has the Jessica Jones and rescue problem where he doesn't do his thing on turn 6. But that said, like, I know there are silly combos out there that are gonna make him busted. And the question is it good enough? And it's kind of a problem that your opponent can just retreat before they happen. Which maybe is another argument for sequencing can happen, because then on turn 6 you could buff him a bunch, activate after all the buffs, right? Like you Odin'd your Ironheart on Wong, and then you activate.
And if you don't have prio, you can dodge Shang. It's yeah.
No, I think he's powerful. I think he will win games. I think I will tilt so hard every time. I can't play him on turn 6. It's just where I'm at. It's the way, like, they say, like, 3, like it takes 3 good interactions to make up for 1 negative interaction you have, because you value that negative interaction so much, even though it's an unhealthy way to live. That's how I feel about Scarlet Spider. It doesn't matter if he won me 3 games. I'm be so mad about the one time I lost it.
The thing that like really sells the card for me is that it's guaranteed to go wide, and that just it's all about winning 2 lanes, and I'm not picky about which 2. I just putting power. Anything that puts power on multiple lanes is good. Get your Miss Marvels,
That's
your
true.
Doctor's Doom. It's Claw.
Squirrel Girl.
Yep.
Okay. We'll move on to Uncle Ben, the star of the season. 1/2. How is he not the season pass card? When this card is destroyed, replace it with Spider-Man. We are now moving on to our set of 2 cards that we think are coming in snap packs.
Uncle Ben versus Tombstone. I feel like the cat's already out of the bag as far as how I feel about Uncle Ben. Does anyone have a surprising opinion they'd like to open this discussion with?
Not super surprising, but maybe compared to the rest of this conversation, I super agree with you. Uncle Ben is just like it's just fun. It's like fun and good. It's the
and thematic.
Everything converges here. And thematic, all the things you want in a card have come together.
Elegant design.
And Uncle Ben. Let us murder him over and over.
Yes, we will.
Oh, we're gonna get so many Spidermans. All right.
Somebody's got to make some version of this joke. Bucky? More like unlucky. Am I right? Am I right? Am I right? Am I right? Okay. 1/2 is better than 2/1 in all kinds of decks, not least of which destroy. And that Spider-Man on reveal is worth more than a point of power. Winter Soldier, not as good as Spider-Man. Sorry, Sebastian. That's just how it is. The swing away, that will mean that Uncle Ben can perhaps imbue a Lady Deathstrike with the little cannonball twist. You clear the small stuff and you relocate whatever was large enough to survive. I'm very excited to play Uncle Ben in all kinds of decks. I'm interested in seeing about a little splash of destroy in some decks where it wouldn't ordinarily live. It's just, it's an inspiring card. I'm excited to build with it.
And bringing, like, reach to destroy that it didn't,
except for Zola.
Oh, you're right. Zola did give some reach. So more options for reach, which is good, because I feel like if you have the deck builder create a destroy deck for it's still just the same Deadpool Zola Null deck, and it's just like it'd be nice to have just more options.
Yeah. Even if Spider-Man just ends up being Venom food, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that Carnage and Venom are criminally underplayed outside of Destroy. They're
Yep.
great utility cards. Killmonger obviously is like, that is the one Destroy card people are comfy playing outside of Destroy. I shouldn't say the one, there's Death Strike too, but I think it's fun to give your opponent a reason they can't play their Killmonger. Right?
I like that
I mean,
too.
if they have X-23 and Deadpool on the
Disincentivizing
board,
them.
they're gonna play it anyway. But if you have
Yep.
Nova and Uncle Ben on the board, you're like, you sure you want to play
That's a
that
head
Killmonger?
scratcher right there.
I didn't think about how fun that would be versus enemy Killmongers.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought up Death Strike because I think that's probably the best use, especially outside of Destroy decks.
I'd love to.
I thought of it like right after we recorded the last episode. I was like, damn, that would have been a good thing to mention. Oh well.
Hey, we got to talk about him all over again, and then again when
you have not heard the last
available.
of Uncle Ben. I tell you one thing. It'd be a favorite topic of discussion for me. Yeah, let's talk about the.
I think, are we all Uncle Ben over Tombstone? Yes,
I think so. Yeah.
Personally, yeah. Yep.
Okay.
More versatile.
Tombstone, a 4/6, costs 1 if an enemy card was destroyed last turn. I don't like this card. 1/6 is great stats, but that it's dependent on destroying an enemy card
on the
instead
previous
of just
turn.
any card being destroyed. This is such a harder trigger than what Stature or Miles have.
I completely agree.
And I don't think Destroy plays him. Not that Destroy is doing a lot of destroying your cards.
Not the traditional Destroy that we were just talking about, that's for sure.
Right. So the 2 decks where I think he goes is something with Death Strike, which isn't a deck, just like a thought. Like, I think Death Strike does work with Tombstone.
Yeah, Uncle Ben might wave him in like he's with me, is my thinking.
Right. And Deathbird, which is, the Mockingbird death decks where you're like playing Squirrel Girl, you're trying to get your Mockingbird cheap, and then you pop a Killmonger at the end, so your death is now cheap.
Also a silly thing to name a deck when there is definitely going to be a card called Deathbird in the foreseeable future, probably within the next 12 months, if I were a gambling person.
That's fair.
Name them what you want to name them, I guess.
But Deathbird is a deck where you might, I don't think every flavor of Deathbird does this, but you might play Debris and Killmonger, which enables Tombstone.
Yeah.
I've also seen flavors of...
too.
I've seen flavors of Deathbird that run Moon Girl, and this would be another great target for the Moon Girl. Like, at the end of the turn, I'm playing 2 0-cost deaths and 2 1-cost Tombstones, and I'm just gonna pop down a whole bunch of power.
Tombstone's like a bummer, because when I first quick read the card, I just thought if a card was destroyed last turn, and it's
if it were like Stature, he'd be great. He would be the best of any of them if it were a permanent discount Stature style.
But
I think as is, he's just worse than Miles because it's easier to make sure that a card moves than it is to destroy an opponent's card.
Because now you have to play him with like a Debris or you know what I mean? Like, that's the only way I would play him if I had some way to destroy an enemy card for sure, which then you also have to draw. Yeah, it's a bummer.
Killmonger is like the most reliable way probably to activate Tombstone, and it's still not that reliable.
Even if you're going to do Killmonger or Shang, those are stronger cards to play on the last turn. And so you have to play them early in order to activate Tombstone. Is that worth the extra 6-point swing? Maybe.
I don't know. It's just an awkward thing to like fit into the flow of a game. There's a lot to like about Tombstone, but not enough. I don't know.
Agreed. Okay. If you were to jam Uncle Ben and Tombstone into the list of 7, are you ready for this?
Oh, I'm. Who would like to go first?
Go for it.
I would put Tombstone at number 7 pretty easily, and I would put Uncle Ben below Araña and above Silver Sable.
I would put...
Which is what, like your 6th? Or no, that's your 5th.
That would be my new 5th.
Okay.
I agree. I think Tombstone goes last.
Spider-Man ranking at 3. I don't know.
It's a weird combo, but I think Uncle Ben... I would probably move all the way to second because once again, my activate bias. And I think I would rather have Uncle Ben than Silver Sable, to be honest with you. So that's where I'm at.
Crabsolutely.
Okay. I have Tombstone at 7, Uncle Ben at 4, which is for me between Madame Web and Scarlet Spider, although I think maybe I need to move up Madame Web. Anyway, there's our rankings. Tombstone's got to get changed, right? Like,
Yeah,
I
make
feel
him
like
like
so.
4-7
real
or
bad.
something.
He's not even niche good. He's just bad.
Yeah, just not quite there.
I feel like he's got to
A little
change, right?
underbaked.
Yeah.
All right, so now that we've talked about next season's cards, at least as much as we know about them so far, we'll talk specifically about next week's spotlight to advise your resource spending. It's Silver Sable, who Ben and I weren't very high on. Again, a 1/1 on reveal, steal 2 power from the top card of your opponent's deck. We've already kind of talked about her, so let's also include her spotlight friends, who are Mockingbird and US Agent. I think both of those cards are fabulous, and either one
Very
alone
strong.
is worth spending keys on.
Yeah.
I agree. I think they do go in certain types of decks, right? Mockingbird is more of like an Arshem, Loki, or Zoo, like with Squirrel Girl kind of
Deathbird.
card. Yeah, Deathbird. So there are certain, so if you hate all of those kinds of decks, like. Did you have an opinion?
I mean, I don't like Mockingbird myself, but I do think that if you don't own Mockingbird, you probably want to. I mean, unless you have really weird taste like I do, like you should have access to Mockingbird if you want to like win games and stuff.
But there's plenty
and
of
I
decks
feel
she doesn't
similarly
go
about
in.
US Agent.
And okay, yeah, US Agent also though is strong, but also goes in specific decks. Like
That's true.
More narrow in usage for sure than Mockingbird, which you need for Thanos and a lot of other things.
But man, with all that Affliction Spectrum I've been playing, US Agent solos lanes
Just
is
such a beefcake.
Beautiful card.
Yeah, I think it's still unexpected. Yeah.
Just swinging the lanes so hard.
I have been pulling a lot of US Agent Mystique. I have a little mini ongoing deck that's got it's not a Spectrum deck. It's like Goose and Captain America, and the idea is like I've triple laned Goose plenty of times with Nico giving me an extra Goose and then mystiquing it. So many decks just cannot, like, you have to snap it ahead of time because they are gonna retreat when they realize they can't play any of their 4-up cards. But I have but like that, and then Mystique is also great to copy US Agent. So yeah, I don't know.
That is like a reverse Galactus. That's just beautiful. Okay, but Silver Sable, if that's the only card you're missing, is it worth keys? No.
Not for a lot of people, I think.
Yeah, I think if you really want the other 2 cards, maybe open for those 2 and maybe leave Silver Sable on the table. I don't know.
That was a good
I'm not that extreme. If you're going in for either,
you should probably finish up. If you have 3 or 4 keys or whatever, keep keying away. If
I'm always in favor of going until you get everything you're missing. I guess if there's a card you really know you're not going to play, like, I don't know, Marvel Boy Week, if I didn't get Red Hulk first, I probably would have continued skipping Red Hulk. I literally haven't played him since I got him.
Yeah, I tried him for 5 minutes in a Heimdall deck, and he made it worse.
Yeah, I was excited to get him because I saw a lot of decks I wanted to try, but like now that I have him, I really haven't, like, I don't put him in my own decks.
Yeah, why would you?
But I will say, okay,
they just retreat when he gets big. It's like, I don't know. I like winning a lot of cubes more than I like winning 1 cube at a time, is my feeling.
I want to provide a contrasting argument too with the way I plan spotlights. I go any card where I am close enough to collection complete that any week where I can get 2 new cards, I will open that week. I don't care what the don't care what the meta, because I want all the options. My goal is to become collection complete. So there are 2-week cards where it's like I don't particularly like with Red Hulk. I didn't particularly care to get him, but that was a card where I could get Red Hulk and the new card, and I always save spotlight keys for those weeks and open them. So if that's your style, and you need 2 weeks, and you're also trying to do that, like,
Yeah, if you really value efficiency, the multi-card weeks are a great way to save keys.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a patch/OTA tomorrow. It's an OTA. We record on Wednesdays. So the only thing we know about tomorrow's OTA so far is that Hulkling will no longer copy himself. I guess the rest of that we'll talk about next week. And we will move on to the end of the show. We hope you enjoyed listening to our thoughts about Spider-Verse. If you want more, follow us on Twitter. I'm at LaurenWhatevs. Ben's at Benjamin_Roller. Ree's at its_just_re. And the whole podcast you can find at SnapOnThisPod. Find us on Twitter, YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, including now Spotify. That's just SnapOnThisPod. Like, comment, subscribe, leave a review on iTunes and Spotify. That would be fabulous. If you have any questions or comments or hate mail about Weird World or Martyr, send us questions and suggestions by email. That is snaponthispod@gmail.com. We are a member of the new Snap Judgments network. While you're at it, check out one of the other great shows on that network, such as Snap Decisions, briefly mentioned, is Joe's podcast, which he releases on Mondays for guests and Tuesdays regularly, and he also does ad hoc coverage for OTAs, so that might be the fastest way to hear about tomorrow's OTA. Yeah, thanks for listening. We don't have an ending yet.
Yeah.
Keep on snapping.
No, it should be like, I'd snap on that.
Dear listener, I would snap on you.
When I say that, it's mean, though. I'm like, snap you. Okay, sorry. It's not nice when I'm yelling at my opponent, to be honest.
Oh, goodness. We should come up with a good
We'll develop an outro that's...
We can just fade
for
into
now.
the guitars.
Banter over wailing guitars is beautiful.
Works for me.
We didn't actually mention Snap Decisions. We did that during the intermission. So previously mentioned.
Oh, true. Yeah, I think I don't know which parts we would might want to trim, but I bet there's something we should trim here.
No, just where we're talking about the intermission, right? Obviously.
This is
right.
art.
That definitely has to go.